In this demonstration, I'd like to highlight just some of the features and functionality of Kemp 360 Central. Kemp 360 Central provides management of your application delivery infrastructure, whether you're running just Kemp LoadMaster line of ADCs or running in a multi-vendor environment. If you're concerned about the ADC performance, Kemp 360 Central also provides statistics of the system, as well as other metrics, which are a must-have when doing application delivery. So let's jump right in and dig into some of these features. Let's start things off in the Network and Device Administration Monitoring tab. So on the left-hand side here, we have a collection of our application delivery controllers. We have some load masters listed here, as well as some third-party ADCs, such as HA Proxy, Nginx, and Amazon's ELB. The load masters we have listed here, we see one in red, which, as you can imagine, is offline. We have some in green, as well as some in blue. Now, the difference between the green and the blue ones are the way that they were licensed, and we'll get a little bit deeper on that topic later on in the demonstration. The center, we have the real-time metrics that are happening on that particular loadmaster. This environment is a lab environment, so there's not much going on, but you could select how you want to look at these metrics, whether it be by the hour, by the day, week, month, or year. If we scroll down, we see some health of the virtual services as well as the real servers that are on this particular loadmaster. As we can see here, we have some issues with some real servers, but since we have multiple real servers behind the virtual services are still online. On the right-hand side, we see some of the stats based on this particular loadmaster. We can select this to see some of the CPU utilization as well as memory usage. Moving on to the Service Configuration tab, this is where we can manage the virtual services that are running on a particular loadmaster. So we can add new virtual services, we can delete existing virtual services, we can go into these virtual services and edit the properties. In the event that you're migrating, we have the VS Motion option where you can actually select a virtual service and either copy or move it to another loadmaster that's running within Kemp 360 Central. And then we have the System Configuration tab. Here I can do things like opening up the web user interface. I have some log settings where I can set my syslog options. And then I have System Administration, where I can do things like schedule backup and restores. So here I have one loadmaster selected, but I have the option to select an entire tenant, in which case I can select multiple loadmasters and schedule those. And I can select whether I want that on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. Also, we can update the loadmaster firmware. So selecting the firmware, I could see what the current firmware is running, and I can select, for instance, this particular one and select the 7134, and I can go ahead and schedule that. Now, I wouldn't want to repeat this, so I would set repeat to never, but I can go ahead and schedule that for during off-hours window. We also have the option to push out workload-specific templates to loadmasters. So, for instance, this Skype for Business VLM, I may want to push out the Skype for Business template. So I can go ahead, select that, and upload that Skype for Business template to that loadmaster. And system reboots, we can go ahead, same thing goes for this. I can select multiple loadmasters and reboot them individually, reboot them all, or schedule a reboot during an off-hours window. Moving on from our network and device administration, we're now in the global repository where we have our logs stored, whether they be system, audit, or debug. We have firmware management where we can upload new firmware versions and delete older ones here. Template management, we can upload new templates as they come out, and perhaps we want to delete ones that are no longer in use. And then here we can also, with our backups, we can upload backups as well as delete backups that are stored within Kemp 360 Central. And finally, we've come to the settings and configuration options of Kemp 360 Central. So here you can do things like reboot or shut down the system. We have some SMTP settings, so we can be alerted on events such as an ADC going offline. We also have the ability to set up temporary SSH access should the Kemp support team need to access the environment. And finally, if you're behind a proxy, you can set the proxy settings here as well. Under License Management, here's where we can license Kemp 360 Central, as well as updating the firmware under Firmware Management. Under User Management, we can create multiple users and give some users, for instance, read-only access. Under the Metered Licensing Management, you can find our flexible licensing options. If we recall, under the Monitoring tab, we had a collection of loadmasters that were both green and blue in color. The two blue loadmasters were licensed locally using the Activation Server option on Kemp 360 Central. This option allows you to purchase a set number of loadmaster licenses that can be consumed without having to register each one individually with Kemp's centralized licensing portal. Here you can see I have 30 available licenses and I've only consumed 2 of them. And finally, we have our scheduled actions. So here we can manage some of the scheduled either updates, reboots, or backups that we've created within Kemp 360 Central. Hopefully this demonstration showed the value Kemp 360 Central can bring to your application delivery infrastructure.